He's going to go through this a lot today. Joey Camacho is on here, so say hello to everybody.
What's up? What's up, everyone? How's it going?
Awesome. And then later on, towards the end of the stream, we're going to have a student critique. Olaf is going to be on here, and I'm going to go through some of his work for the last 15 minutes. So if you guys want to kind of see the inner workings of how that all goes, let us know, because that's going to be a lot of fun. If you have questions, keep them in the chat, keep them clear, and Mohammed and I will try to fetch them as we go. But yeah, it's going to be a really good one. What you're seeing right now on my screen is some stuff I was making. I'll probably talk about this in another stream, but I was going crazy and making a bunch of stuff in ZBrush, and then I was going into Octane and rendering it, and there's a lot of crazy stuff happening here. And this is just like a little look at some things that I'm developing right now. It should be a lot of fun. So, but that's another stream. I just wanted to have this up here so there wasn't just like a blank nothing. So anyways, let's go up to, I'm going to start adding in Joey's screen here. I wonder if I can maximize this thing. So here we are. Joey, they can see your screen now. So I'm not sure if you are able to, well, probably best not to look at the live chat because it'll just be distracting. But everybody can see what you're looking at now, so it's just great. I'm going to figure out how to
Awesome.
minimize this thing.
The little talk overlay there, this guy.
No, I mean that guy, yeah, but there's like this side window thing that I want to try and like go to view full screen maybe. Okay, there it is. Alt enter. There we go. Awesome. So we're at full screen now. So you're in control now, and so today is kind of like just hang out and chat. We've been talking about having you on for a while now. In the process of doing that, you actually took Michael Wrigley's design for production class, right?
Yeah, shout out to that beast. That was awesome. It's a great class.
Yeah, super powerful class, very efficient class. Like really teaches a very high level different tiers of things, and I think it's also geared towards people that are interested in just becoming like their own beast. You know, like working from home,
hmm
and which is kind of exactly catered to you, right? In your stage, what you're doing right now.
Yeah, yeah, full-time freelance.
Awesome, full time freelance, and like you, just so people are aware of like what you're working with, you have a pretty crazy setup, right? From what I remember.
Yeah, I do. I actually, hold on a sec here. I just took some pictures of it
Oh,
a while back, but this is
damn!
one of the two machines that I have right now.
Wow, what the hell? Yeah,
Yeah.
wow, that's a
So,
lot of
so it's
GPU
this.
action.
Yeah, it was a real privilege to be able to get this as soon as we did, and yeah, it's kind of similar to what.
Who put this together?
Oh, yeah, not me personally, no way. This is some craftsmanship beyond me, but there's a company here out in Western Canada that actually threw this together, and they're really good at this. The guys at NCIX. It was a custom build, and they actually were able to do this while keeping the warranty intact on these cards.
Wow.
Yeah, I know a lot of guys like chop off the back half
Yeah,
for
yeah.
the DBI clips, but they got some custom back plates for this, and
Hmm.
there's a build log somewhere, but they got the single slot back plates and threw them in there. So I was super lucky to
So
get that. I
clean.
was yeah, very clean. So
Damn. Yeah, that's really nice. Really custom and clean. Really, really nice setup. So that's what GPUs are you using there? Are those 1080s?
uh,
No.
those are 980 Ti's
980 Ti's. Okay,
in that.
awesome.
Yeah, and then the other machine's got I think like four Titan X's in it. So
Did your heart sink like mine when you found out the 1080 Ti's are coming out or something like that? I remember I just bought like a couple more 980s and then the 1080s came out. I'm like, fuck.
yeah, it's always like that though. Like I felt that way when I got like the Titan X's, and then all of a sudden the 980 Ti's came out, and it's like 95% of the performance for 60% of the cost. So I think it's always cyclical, but I was on the fence, right? Because Octane was still like optimizing Pascal and there was issues and stuff like that. So I just pulled the trigger. I had a production kind of depending on it. So I was like, hey, now's the time. So
Yeah, no, that's awesome,
yeah,
man. I mean, if there's ever a time, I always tell people, myself included, like if there's ever a time or a reason to invest, it's on yourself
yeah.
and what you do. I think it's really important. So, awesome. I just want people to be aware of it because I know you got a really amazing rig, and those guys did an amazing job. What's the site or the people, just so we can send it out if people are interested?
Yeah, they do it in Canada. I don't know if they like deliver or anything like that, but they're out in Vancouver here. They have a pretty, they ship a lot of computer parts, but they do custom builds. It's NCIX. So
NCIX. Okay.
yeah, yeah. And
Awesome.
I don't know why, man. I don't know why. Like, I hope Nvidia's listening at some point, but like guys, like they just need to make a single slot card.
Yeah, for reals.
People would just buy twice as many cards if there was a single
I
slot
would.
card out there.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
no,
sure.
I would. Eventually, I'm hoping they will. If not, then I'm just gonna have to like consult those guys that you got built or somebody else, because like my friend Sebastian out in Poland who made Vitaly's last machine. That thing is
Hmm.
sick too. It's the same kind of setup, but he had to do some cutting and stuff,
Exactly.
So which is kind of a
Yeah.
drag. But that's really cool though. It's super super duper clean. We have the same case. I have two of them now.
Yeah.
But the problem is
Yeah.
I have two machines that are running only 6 cards total because they take up 2 slots, the PCIe. So
Yeah.
it's just like such a pain in the butt. But yeah,
You just want
it's
as much power in a small space. That this machine here, I know it only shows one power supply, but there's actually two power
oh
supplies.
really? Wow.
Yeah, there's like two 1600, two 1200s, just because they didn't want to take any chances. So yeah, they did a really clean job. So
Wow, that's epic, man. Damn. Yeah, I have
yeah.
a 1600 watt in one of my machines, and then I think in both of them actually have 1600 watts. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Oh,
funny story. We just live in this condo, and it's really nice. But we learned the hard way that our power from my office to the bedroom is kind of split on the circuit. So every time I'd start rendering with this machine, it would just shut down power in both offices all the time. I'm like, what's going on?
yeah,
So we
that's
have like,
actually the next question people were asking about, like how you're delivering the power properly to this, because I had to run a separate unit from my in my house. I had to have an electrician come out and custom like run a
yeah,
separate line off the circuit board to a separate breaker for my office
yeah.
because it was just pulling a lot of energy. So yeah,
Oh,
so
yeah,
stupid,
we
so bad.
yeah, we all we did actually, we had the same thing, but because we don't own the condo, we're renting, but it's we weren't like gonna all of a sudden tear apart wiring and stuff like that. But he gave us a quote, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. That's ridiculous. I'll run extension cords or something for the time being, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
then
That's what Michael
then
regularly does, I think. So
yeah,
split
the
the pool.
literally just went to Home Depot and dropped like a 50 amp breaker in the breaker. It's not an issue. Instead of
Awesome.
I think most like home are 15, like
Yeah,
15 amps, and
20
yeah,
usually.
we just dropped a 50 amp and it's fine.
Yeah.
It
Nice.
just that just channels
A
the
little life
power
hack.
differently. So
Keep an eye on that though, so it doesn't
yeah,
burn out. So
yeah, yeah. We got the commercial insurance too. Don't worry.
nice. Very cool. Awesome. Well, okay, that's good. I know people are gonna start asking like, "What's your setup?" and all that kind of stuff. So that really helps. And if you have
I
like
do. Yeah.
if you have like a spec list or something like that, we could share with people. Maybe at the end of the stream, I could share with Mohammed, and then Mohammed can get it out to everybody, so they're just kind of aware. So, but yeah,
Sure, I do have a full write up on it. I'll share it. I
ah,
just
killer.
haven't launched it yet. So
Very cool, man. Awesome. Okay, well, so we're in here in Cinema 4D. This is your native program. We talked a little bit about you taking design for production. I kind of just told you loosely, like, hey, come on the stream. We'll just hang out. We'll have some fun. Just do whatever. So I'm going to kind of just pass it
yeah.
off to you, and I'll just be asking you questions, and we'll just navigating other people's questions off the stream. So yeah, go for it, I guess.
Yeah, awesome. So this is kind of the first time I've done this, so I'll just chat and you can kind of
Yeah.
yell at me if I'm doing anything that's off the grid here. But
No, no, go for
um,
it.
yeah, this was my finished scene for DFP. I kind of followed the course, as closely as I could. It was honestly, like, I think when we talk about the class, it was just probably the most pragmatic, like high level stuff that. High level, like not complex, but just high level way of thinking. And most of the things that I got out of it, technically, I was like, yeah, I've done that before, but I never really, I kind of took the time to assess why those things were working the way they were.
Yeah.
So Michael, he just distilled it down like in its most pragmatic form, which I really appreciate. Everything from the simple setups to the biggest thing for me was just the pipeline stuff that I got, like understanding how to work on a project kind of a little bit more fluid, like a little bit more like consistently with an actual like solidified process. Like I was just like so into like the naming conventions and his like folder structure and all that
I
stuff.
love that. That was like my favorite
Yeah.
part of the course too, like how he breaks down how he names his files, keep them clean. It's so awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, like I've had probably two or three systems, and then they'll change. And a big thing that I got out of it at the end was like when you have a process that's dialed in, I think it's really worth protecting, not in terms of like not sharing it or anything like that, but in protecting so that you can deliver great work consistently. Because I think as soon as I've learned that, as soon as like the technical process changes or like your creative process changes, I find that the results kind of suffer sometimes. Sometimes they are for the better, but if you can really like protect that process and evolve it accordingly. But yeah, that was one of the most wicked things I got out of the class, was just seeing that start to finish.
Yeah, it's very transparent too, which is really good, and that's something that we really we really encourage when we're building classes, so that like everybody that's taking the class, it's not like, hey, like watch me do a time lapse and it's completely irrelevant. I'm going to talk about high level stuff even though you don't care about that stuff. Like it drives me nuts, you know. So I think that one of the highlights for me when I was taking Wrigley's class and developing the class with him is like just being really transparent in the process of how you share, how you do things, and I think that's really important. And a big freaking hats off to Michael for coming on and making that class, and also like showing us how he works so intimately, because that takes a lot out of an artist, especially one that's like self-developed and learned, you know, through the school of hard knocks, to do this, to reveal a lot of your secrets. But I swear, like the one thing I think is really valuable for everybody that's listening to, because we're all on the road to mastery, right? We're all trying to be the better version of ourselves at every chance we get. And I think the really key thing here is just remembering that like we're on that road, and it's important to give back. And the moment that you give back and you empty that glass, like, so like as Vitaly says, like I think you evolve basically, and you don't hold on to anything. And so I think like the idea of giving and sharing and exposing this kind of knowledge really helps people develop, and the community as a whole. So like, at least that's what I think holistically. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm about, I think, like 50 pages away from finishing that book too, which is
Which one?
fantastic. The Mastery book.
Which Robert Greene one?
Yeah.
Oh hell yeah, that's an incredible book, man. That book is so next level. I'm reading the next one, the George Leonard one, the Mastery. There's another one now, so I'm reading that one.
Yeah,
That's really incredible too. So yeah, so much.
Yeah, it's a big eye opener.
Yeah,
Big eye opener just on like genius, right? Like I was always in, you hear those names like Mozart and stuff like that, and you're like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? Einstein was like a failure for like just couldn't get his shit together for a while.
For a long time, years.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool.
It is cool. It personifies things, and it allows you to identify that it is a possibility that you will eventually become a master of what you do if you stick to it, you know? So, and I think part of being a master of things is being able to communicate what you do clearly. And I think that's a testament to our classes is the student output. You know, our classes are judged by how successful our students are. That's how I look at it, you know? And like, obviously, what is this project called again? You had a name for it on your site. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, as prediction.
Prediction, that's right. Okay.
Prediction, yeah. It was actually, it was, do you want me to pull up the homework, or do you want me to pull up the project on like my portfolio, I guess?
Yeah, that'd be great. It'd be great to see that. That's cool. You're using that too, that plugin for Chrome. Mache was just showing it to me the other day.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty cool.
I don't even put the goal in there. I just like to be greeted every morning.
Yeah. No, it's cool. Yeah. Mache turned me on to that, and I have it too. So, yeah, awesome. So let's walk us through kind of what your thought process was with this, and kind of your ideas behind it. I mean, it's incredibly beautiful, obviously. It's just exquisite looking. So walk us through kind of the process of what you were doing and what your thoughts were, and kind of how you approached the class. And the really cool thing I want to talk about is how you differed from what Michael was doing and kind of put your own spin on it, but then you also changed it to be your own thing, you know, which I think is really significant. So.
Yeah. Okay. For sure. I really like love this whole like era that we're in with robotics and like neural networks and like machine learning and all this stuff. It's moving at such a quick pace. I was just trying to understand a little bit more, again, like the pragmatic side of like, you hear a phrase like machine learning, and I was like, what is that, right? So I like dove into it, and I was like, okay, like now it kind of kind of get how these things are assembled, and you know, it comes up. It doesn't. They never have an answer. They just always have a prediction. They can't say for sure what the outcome is. But these machines, they have this kind of like these calculative methods, and you know, I'll also just pull up the actual homework, because I think that kind of helps show the process a bit more. But either way, here actually I'll go through this. The words that kind of came out of it were initiation, like initiate. That was the big one, and then they calculate, and then they activate. So those three words were like the three words that I kind of came up with the information I pulled out to kind of say this is what prediction is about. It's about initiation, it's about calculation, and then activation, and that's what that the final calculation that comes together is really what this final prediction is all about. So these neural networks pulling in or starting from kind of further out, they're coming together to kind of create this core, which is this energy going, okay, this is the final prediction that's being made. So it you know, these frames kind of just show all the interconnectivity. It's a
awesome,
like high level abstract, but the final thing, you know, the structure is kind of like maybe where these small deductions are made, and as they come in closer, they start to unify, and they go, yes, you know, like that makes sense, that makes sense, that makes sense. And the further you get into this answer, this core, and what's happening inside is maybe some of these answers, you know, or calculations don't make it through, but the final inner activation is really the prediction that's made.
Awesome. Do you find it's important to add fiction to your work to help you find meaning and develop that? And is that kind of what navigates you through that long, weird process of creating things?
Yeah, you know, I think like I wish that more of my work had like a solid story going into it. I think partly with, you know, the everydays, you know, you don't really have to make the time. You know, I don't want to say you have the time, because I know it's about making the time, but
yeah.
You know, that's why when I go through a process like this, I just feel so much more like accomplished and like energized by the final outcome. Like I'm like, I'll put this on my portfolio before, you know, maybe some other work that I haven't had that opportunity to really like go down the rabbit hole of like, you know, getting a lot of solid information, and it's like you never really have to deviate from your idea too much, because you always know it came from a really good starting point.
Yes,
you know, it came from a really solid foundation. Yeah,
absolutely. We talked a little bit about that when we first met. What town was it? Calgary? Was it in Calgary?
We were in Calgary for those camp festival.
That's right. And we had a good chat, and so we chatted a lot about just art of creativity and art in general, and we talked a little bit about just your process on making everydays. And I remember going like, yeah, everydays are really cool, and I love that people are just active making things, but I felt like, but what's the point if it means nothing, you know? And that was like something I thought was interesting, and I could see kind of something clicking in your head when we were talking about that. Hopefully I wasn't insulting you or anybody else. I didn't. I mean, it's cool. Like, you know, every day is like equivalent of getting up in the morning doing push-ups, you know? But like if you don't have proper form or what you're doing, like you don't combine push-ups with like sit-ups and like other things to kind of create a complete body, it doesn't make sense to me personally. I get it. It's cool. I love that people are practicing it, but then it's like, what are you building towards? You know, if it's just like every day you're learning something new, then that's amazing, as long as you're applying it. And I think what you're talking about psychologically is getting in tune with yourself by finding something that has purposeful meaning. And as you're talking about and explaining your ideas and evolving your thoughts and connecting abstract fiction basically to the images that we see, and finding that like that gives you like some sort of like benefit or some sort of like great feeling, that's where it is, you know. At least for me it is, and I think you're seeing it as you go, obviously, too, which is cool. So
yeah, I think somewhere along the way too, with the everydays, when it became more about like a commercial, like, you know, because I started selling prints and stuff, it became more about kind of like making something neat versus really like learning something, you know, along the way. And that's, I think that's kind of where it, if you don't give yourself the time to not only make something beautiful, but actually find some purpose inside of doing it.
Yeah.
If you don't carve out the time to kind of do both, I think sometimes it can just be, you know, going through the motions. You know, that being said, I think, you know, I think also like making meaning out of work on both ends, you know, can also paralyze artists in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
right? Like
true.
So I've been, you know, that's why I started the Everydays, is because I put too much meaning into the work that I was doing, and I was kind of a little bit fearful of like, oh well, this kind of needs to be
That's
the
true.
best work I've done, and it's like, well, no, it doesn't. Just don't make it mean anything. Just find your purpose out of it, and who cares? Yeah, I was going to draw a little inverse graph because it's like the more time I put into it every day, it's almost like the diminishing returns it has, on the way that it looks or how it's received. It's really like an inverse relationship. Sometimes the more purposeful and short and to the point I am, the better the result is.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point that you bring up too. And I think no matter what, as long as you're doing what you love and you're putting that energy and effort into it, the world will respond in one way or the other. And we talked a bit about that too, and we can get into it later on, dude, but more or less just about finding your purpose in your art and finding what you are passionate about and also putting that out there so that you can attract clients at a high level or attract people that you can collaborate at a high level. I think that's really important because it's all a choice, right? We all have the choice, and anybody here that goes, I don't have enough time or whatever it might be, I don't have like whatever it might be. And I think it's really important to like discover what's important to you and find those things that you can latch onto to attach meaning, and that will support whatever decisions you make when you go and make the work that you do, which is like your masterpieces, where that stuff kind of comes from. So um, anyways, I'm rambling on. People are going off in the chat. They're really loving all this project, so you're getting a ton of love, which is great. You're gonna show us some of the homework process of it.
Yeah, because I think it's important. Like that's what the foundation I think that really set me off on the right foot was just going through and stopping to kind of digest that creative brief stuff and really develop like a story that you're interested in. Because I think that's what keeps you through the endurance. The endurance of a project. You have to be interested in it. You
Yeah,
have to like
absolutely.
because then it's like then you're not only interested in just doing the technical stuff. It's like the creativity is pulling through kind of some of the technical drudgery that you're like, oh Jesus, this looks terrible. It's like no, it doesn't matter. I'm still like I want to communicate my idea, right? So
Yeah.
I think that was a big one for me. So yeah, so this was part of the process. A lot of this stuff was really cool to find. On the high level. I found my 3 words and came up with my brief. And it's people can go on the Learn Squared site and just check this out if they want. I don't know if they can see it all. I think they can see it all. But finding the references and finding the words and kind of just coming up with these visuals that slowly started to piece together. And what I really appreciated is like some of the stuff, it wasn't like literal references. Like I need to find, like something that looks like calculation and something that looks like activation. And I think, I don't know, it was a little bit different for me to approach it this way and to just really like funnel it down. I think that was the best word I can describe it is really just funneling down the ideas versus, just throwing stuff at a wall. So, and the sketching part, was like, this is the drudgery, right? Like sometimes you're like, do I really need to do this for every project?
Yeah.
And I thought it just made it clear. It's like, no, I've funneled it down to this level. So why don't I just funnel it down to the next level? I'm happy with this and it's loose enough. So, why don't I just create that? So the prelim studies, were super cool too. Like there's so much learning besides what went into the final piece through these pieces that I was just stoked to go through the process. Like a lot of this stuff started to feel a lot like what was on there already. So I was like, okay, I don't want to do something too close to what's already been done.
Yeah. It kind of looks like some of the early explorations that I was getting with the volumetrics and stuff, and then also, it's cool. That's why I think it's really great because you went through a place, you kind of followed along with us, you mimicked it, you found out how it worked, and then you went off and did your own thing, which I think is really important because it's easy to just kind of replicate something or switch one knob to kind of get an alternate section, but it's a whole nother thing, as you can see and as you know, like to evolve it beyond, like completely. I think that's really where you as an artist will be like, hell yeah, like I'm adding to the pot rather than just sitting in it, which I think is really cool. But it's
Totally.
difficult. It's difficult. It's very difficult to do that, like your first impulse naturally is to be like, I want to be liked and acknowledged, and I want to be like appreciated, and so I'm going to mimic, and then their second thing is like, after you evolve past that evolution of feeling, which is like I equate to like, you know, the like generation, like the internet and how we use it. It's so, we're still so new to it, and how we interact with one another on it. I think like people are getting really obsessed with it. I think that we're starting to realize that it's only going to cause more conflict. I think the best way is just acknowledge its presence, and then live within it, and then also use it to like evolve our development as species to be able to, like, I don't know, add back to things, you know, instead of just mimicking. Because what I'm getting at is like there's a lot of things that are happening where you see like an artist make something, then 500 other artists go and make it, and I think that's a natural occurrence. I don't think there's anything wrong with it as long as you're not like making money off of it. That's a problem. But when you go off and go and make your own thing and you add to the pot, that's really when things evolve. And that's what's really cool about seeing your evolution through this journey, is seeing how you kind of went along with us, made similar things, and then you went off and did your own thing, which like became this really beautiful project that added to the pot, which is really cool, man.
Yeah, awesome.
I'm on a random tip today. Sorry, I'm like just like super snazzy, so.
It's okay. It's all good. I was gonna have a second cup of coffee before I got on here, but I'm like, my hands are already sweaty, and I might as well just cut it off with it now and just take it easy. So this, I think, like when we're talking, this is what I was talking about with the everydays. It's like there was purpose behind these. Like these were, I was building upon these. Like Mike Beeple, he does. I think what he does is incredible, because you see along, you know, when he does his film at the end of each year, right, you go back and you can kind of see like how he was thinking of that intermittently or consistently throughout the year with his everydays. He's building out assets, he's building out things for like a more purposeful idea and concept that he's thought about, right? Whereas, you know, everydays, and that to me is push-ups for something bigger. It's push-ups for, you know, I want to, you know, compete in whatever, right? Like, whereas push-ups for push-ups is just like your everyday's done. It's not accumulating maybe to something that's bigger and better. So the cool thing about this design for production class is that I had homework. I had shit that I needed to get done, but I also wanted to create something beautiful. So these are all offsets. Like, these all stemmed off of my learnings from the class, right? And they're all very different, but they all took a specific technical thing that I was trying to solve, and then allowed me also to create something different and beautiful.
Yeah,
so
definitely there's value, I think, of course,
for sure. And to me, it's like these all accumulated into a final piece, you know, in some way or the other, in another, you know.
Definitely. And I hope that when I'm saying these things, I'm not like trying to diminish the value of it any way. It's more or less like just looking at it from an outside observation. And as we talked about, I think the general consensus is like, if you're spending time and dedicating towards yourself and self-development in your own craft, that you can't go wrong. You really can't, you know, like you're at least one step closer. I just think it's important to always put your head up every once in a while and look at, okay, where am I going? You know, I consider like a creative's career is almost like, you know, a voyager out into the unknown in the ocean, and you're using the stars as your guidance, but sometimes the clouds will come up and clear, you know, fog your clearing, like, and you can't see where you're supposed to be going, and you get turned around. But then I think it's really important to constantly just look up and remind yourself of where you're going, you know. So, and the only reason I'm talking about this with you is because we've had a couple in-depth talks about, like, you know, just development, where you want to go and how you want to achieve those things, and you're making those steps and you're making strides, you know. So I think that's really great.
Yeah, I think in the, you know, to sum these two slides up, it was really just, these were a lot easier to do. These were a lot more enjoyable to do because I didn't have to think so much. There was just a problem that I was trying to solve, and then it was like, okay, I got that solved, versus just going, okay, what do I want to make today? Yeah. It's like, no, I got that homework. Let's bust something cool out, and I didn't have to think about really anything. I just needed to get my homework done, you know.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. So these are some of the breakdowns of those scenes.
Beautiful.
And how they worked out.
For those that just came in, we're talking about design for production. It's Michael Wrigley's course on Learn Squared. So, sorry, keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot, like tons of experiments.
Yeah.
Got a little bit into Substance Designer, which if you haven't tried it, it's pretty rad.
I've been hearing a lot about it. Can you sum it up to me? Like, what is it exactly? Like, why is it something that should be something to focus on? Is it just like a texturing device or what?
Well, dude, if you love Photoshop, right, or, you know, and you love like the nodal editor, let's say an Octane, right? Imagine imagine being able to create textures the same way that, like, and this is why, like, this was another opportunity for me to deviate, because I watched the After Effects texture thing. I was like, oh, that's rad. I've kind of done that a little bit before, but I watched the whole class. I'm like, you know what, Substance, let's try, something over here. So I went and experiment inside that. But basically, to me, when I use it, it reminds me of just like Photoshop in a node-based procedural manner. It's like, imagine being able to take, Photoshop noise layers or Photoshop, effects, let's say, and being able to tweak them on the fly so that they feed down in different overlay methods. So let's say from left to right, and basically, certain. I'm pointing at the screen here. That's not going to do you any good. These things are basically groups of layers, is how I look at them, right? And it's like they come, and they come together, and it's like then you can produce things procedurally and go back in the path and go, you know what, I don't like that many squares there, or I want more squares. Let's dial that in a bit. And I wouldn't say I'm very good with it, but it's a super powerful tool, and I can't imagine a better way to create like seamless textures, or like, and Painter, the Substance Painter is a whole another rabbit hole.
Is it good for like UVing and all that kind of stuff? Is that generally what it is?
Yeah. Well, it's basically, once you got your UVs, you can just like paint your textures like in real time.
That's sick. Okay, that's awesome. And it has a direct link, like a direct link to Octane inside Cinema, so you can just see it live as you're going. I know that there's a direct link between Substance and Cinema. Mm-hmm. I don't know how well that relates to Substance and Octane. I think some guys on the forums were putting together a script so that kind of assembles like a Substance node or whatever. Yeah.
But I'm not sure how fully. It's definitely not fully integrated. But.
That's awesome. Very cool. It's cool that you explored new things too. That's always great.
Yeah, so many new things.
Yeah, never-ending process.
Totally. So these are just some final frames. This is kind of like the scene file that you're looking at in Cinema that I've got back there. This was really cool. Just some really cool learning, just experimentation within it, right? Like how to kind of get the most out of a single scene, and how to get some real, like, some diverse frames out of it. Like I set up all my cameras, followed the class, and then for a few of them, what really got these really cool, I'm gonna go back up here. Some of these ones, like these ones here, I was just like, oh, that's so cool the way that worked out.
The lights spreading. I was wondering if that was like an After Effects plugin or something.
It's a lot. It's definitely a lot of posts. Like, I followed a lot of posts. I enjoy doing posts. But what was cool is putting the camera. I was like, okay, like I got so many angles around this thing. I got so many, whatever. I can go wide. I can go, tight on in these angles, or on the geo. But what does it look like when I'm inside? Inside looking out, right? So it's like, oh, it looks super simple. But then when I was just like, the distortion, so that like on the outside of the sphere, right, there's so much things going on that you don't see like here, that when I go to render, it would just be like it would just distort it, right? I put like an 18mm lens on it. You can see like
yeah, it's really cool.
The glass and stuff refracting everything inwards. So
yeah, it's awesome.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's killer.
Yeah, so. But yeah, it's had a good time.
It's just super beautiful. Yeah, and your materials are really cool. There's been quite a few questions about from people to see if you can share kind of like your process with textures eventually in the stream eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, that's the one thing I think that I love the most about Octane is just like for the first time ever in CGI have I been able to like actually see what I'm working on. Like that's crazy gratifying, because before it was just, I know you know how it was before, it was just such a daunting process. You would never take a shot inside there because you wouldn't risk the time it would take to see what it would look like, but now you can, because like you have the power to do so, and you're able to find spontaneity in your work, and I think that's really important, which was what was lacking, I think, really bad in CGI, which is like you couldn't just do it like a painter could just throw a brushstroke on there. Now you can, which is really cool. It's very empowering. So yeah.
Yeah, when I started the Everydays, I'm not really familiar with the standard or physical render in Cinema. I haven't even spent a lot of time with it because when I first started, I was like, okay, well, I'll try out V-Ray, and I'm super hyped up, right? Like, get so jazzed up to do like a new everyday project. It was the kickoff. I was like committing to a year of this stuff, and like within the first 4 or 5 days, I was like, what is going on? Like these are like they were 800 pixel renders, maybe 1,000, and like the machine would be rendering for I had a Mac, still have it, but had a Mac that would take forever. And yeah, it was so diminishing on like how I used to work, with like design and Illustrator and Photoshop. You can kind of accumulate results pretty quick.
Yeah, it's amazing. You can just blast through.
Yeah.
You set up the scene, you do all the work, you work cleanly, you work efficiently, you work with a narrative, an idea, and then you go and just set up a camera, set some lights up, boom, you take images, and you can just go. Like I don't know if you have the same problem as I do, but when I get in, like when I open up Octane, or if I make something really cool and I go into Octane, like I know I'm not going to sleep much because I know I'm just going to stay up and I'm just going to keep going, like, oh, let's try and add a new camera. Let's add this thing. Let's see what this looks like. It's like never ending.
Right. Yeah. It can be a total black hole.
It's addicting, man.
Yeah. And I think the more toys that you end up using with it and trying stuff out, like we talked like in the class when they use the active particle stuff, I was like, how do you do that differently? How do you really like push that and use that to just come up with a different result. There's so many. I talk about this concept like of the low hanging fruit. When it comes to everydays, and you're talking about it or just mimicking, right? Like I call that like the low hanging fruit. It's like that's easy to do, right? Like the good stuff, the good fruit's at the top of the tree, right? Like the real good stuff, and it's like you got to climb past like a lot of like tempting stuff that's easy to do.
Yeah.
Then to stop and just go, what, like that, like I want like same as mastery, like you'll work through it all this stuff that might look good or be easy to get a quick result from, or take an asset or take a tutorial and just put some different colors on it and be like, boom, like this is mine, look what I came up with. And while there's still some learning in it, I think the understanding is missing. I think it's lost somewhere along the way. And what I really appreciate about this class is like, while you could get the result and get a good result by just kind of mimicking what's in the class, to me it provided more inspiring tools to push it further.
Yeah.
And I think when you have your own story to work off of, you can really push it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. One thing I've been doing recently that I think you might like too, well, I guess you use After Effects, it doesn't matter, but if you want to use like a lighter version, if you're just trying to augment, like do like quick touch-ups, I've been using Lightroom. After I render stuff, I just bring it into Lightroom, and I have like different presets, and it's actually really robust and really fast and simple. It's great for editing photographs. I didn't realize it until I started like editing photographs of the build that I'm doing with my NSX, and then I started taking renders in there. I'm like, wow, this is really cool because now I can adjust the gamma and the exposure and all that stuff. All things you can do in After Effects, obviously, but something like it's another quick tool that I use that just makes it a lot just fast, So making presets and stuff. So just a little something that you might like if you're just making stills, of course. So yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever use? I do a ton of. I do well, not a ton, but I do quite a bit of photography. At home here.
Okay, that's a question that people are asking. So do you have a photographic background? Is that?
Yeah. I went to university for photography, to major in photography, and like anyone else, not like anyone else, but I just didn't get my shit together for a little while. I went back to university. I was like 24, and I was just like, I want to do photography, and I got into it. And it was like, it wasn't that challenging at first. Like I maybe didn't have the best instructors or didn't, but I was pretty good at it for when I got there. So I kind of felt like I wasn't challenged. And then all of a sudden the visual communications side opened up, and I went through visual communications and did like design and like I did like graphic design and majored in that for 4 years. But I still love photography, and I do a lot, like do studio stuff. I have like studio lights at home, and I do like kind of like natural light photography. My fiance, she runs a like an online like food and like wellness, like health and wellness blog. So I'm always like helping her like take photos of food, and like we do like studio stuff together. We'll go out, like we live in BC, so we'll go out and like do some cool stuff in the mountains, or Yeah, lots of
That's
stuff.
awesome.
But
That
I
helps
love
your eye, I
photography.
think, in CGI a lot, having that photographic background and understanding of composition, lighting, light direction, tonality, how to convey story. I think that's really important. I
Yeah,
think
like
I
things
think they
like
both affect one another too. I love making things in CGI and then using that as a tool instead of having to have like a whole like all the equipment, the camera, the lens, everything. I can make any lens I want. I can make any camera I want. I can make any like
yeah.
that's incredible. That's the power of CGI. But then I can mimic things. I talk a lot about this with Anthony Burns, who he loves CGI and he learned a lot about lighting through using CGI as a development tool too. And it's just a quick way to quickly get access to things that you just normally can't because you don't have the time or the money for the gear or whatever it might be, but it really helps you perfect your eye and stuff, which I think is great. So, but vice versa, I think they're both good. When I take pictures with the camera, it supports my CGI. When I take pictures in CGI, it helps support the camera. It's like a duality. Do you find that same thing happening with you?
Yeah, like that whole like when I was taking photography like in the studio, the whole inverse square like fall off of light. I could never wrap my head around it until like I just like set up a scene in cinema and like was like, okay, if this light's at 1 and then like this light's at point 0.5 and this light's at 0.25,
Yeah.
what do they do along a plane? Like what happens? What do they do if there's a sphere like the same distance between, in front of all of them? And how does that light fall off? And just like because I didn't understand it as a photographer, like in real world, I just couldn't understand it. But once I could see it and like set it up in a scene, I was like, okay, I get what it does visually. That's all I need to know. Like I don't need to understand math and distances. It's more of a feel for it versus like the actual like physics of it. You know.
Yeah, and that's really important to know that stuff. I think it really helps infer just your decision making and how like you're putting things together and just seeing things. I think that really gives a good vision to things. So yeah, it's really cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
these look
So
really awesome.
yeah, thanks, man. I had a good time really with this stuff, and I can't speak more highly of it with regards to a class that balances out learning with you know learning without just like leaving you on your own and not hand holding you either. It's pretty good.
Yeah, man.
Um, yeah, I can. Do you want me to take you through some of the technical stuff here, or
Yeah,
like
that'd
do
be
you want
great. I think we talked a lot about like a lot of great high level stuff. We have about another 30 minutes, so I think this is probably a good time if you're comfortable to kind of segue into talking about some of the processes of how you use Octane efficiently. There's all kinds of questions I could probably throw at
Well,
you and stuff. So
do you want make sure I'm doing something relevant? You want to pull some questions?
yeah, if anybody's on the stream that has like Octane specific questions, or if there's something else you wanted to address, feel free to throw it in here. There's been quite a few requests for you to kind of talk a little bit about your texturing process, and maybe you can shed some light on just like maybe one of the textures, like the chrome ball or something like that. Do you use like
Yeah,
the node base editor, or do you just use like the setup? Oh, okay, you do. Okay, awesome. Because I do
I
too.
do.
Yeah.
I do and I don't. Honestly, like I became so familiar. Like there were so many things that like I didn't like about the node editor. Like
Oh yeah. What is it
um,
that's not working for you?
I don't know. I just like I can quickly see where things are going, but I became so quick with like I don't even know if a lot of people know this, but it became like I was like, oh, that's amazing, right? So like if you have a texture in here, like in your diffuse channel, like okay, that I'm also going to use that for my bump channel.
Yeah.
Like you do not need to go in here and like reload that. You can just like go like here. Let me just I'll just drag. You can just go like this. You just drag it, hold it over bump, and then just drop it on there.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
No,
Nice.
I know, and it was like it's like one of those tidbits. You're like, okay, like I just took like 10 seconds and turned it into 2 seconds,
Hmm.
and you add that up, 5,000 times a year. Like give me a couple hours.
you
I'm
you are
in.
reading
I mean,
mastery. You are reading mastery.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, dude, if you can chip away at that stuff, like I've always been a proponent. Like I think, I asked people a question on like his live stream. I was like, well, like what are some like things that you've learned? He's like, well, don't spend money if you don't have to. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, okay, cool. And then I was like, yeah. I'm like, I spent a lot of money on my computer though. And I was like, no, I think that's different. I think people spend stuff on like frivolous things. And to me, if you can spend money to save time, like because they're so interconnected,
Yes.
to me, I'm like, spend the money, like if you know it's coming. Like I didn't buy my new PC until like I had a job, and I was like, they're like, "Can you do this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can do that." They're like, "You have a machine that can, heck yeah." And then we like
That's a
we
great
signed the
feeling, man.
deal. Yeah, we signed the contract, and I'm like, shit, like I need to go get a good computer now, and I did,
Good for you,
and we
man.
pulled the job. Yeah, and I think if like don't hesitate if you're serious about it, like that's
Yeah.
just go for it, don't wait. So yeah, there was that little tidbit. I love the little tidbits, like
Yeah,
the
those are
time
great.
savers.
Yeah.
I didn't see Michael do this, and I got this off of another blog, but like if you have a bunch of effectors in here, like instead of like turning off all these effectors every time.
Yeah.
If you put like just a blank spline in top and you have a bunch, because that spline has a like on or off switch, you just hold command or control and it turns
that's cool.
everything off. Yeah,
it's like an on and off
like
switch for like a big group of things. Yeah,
exactly.
That's
and
nice.
you know about the
so you just add a spline. Can you go through that process just so if anybody's watching, they could see how you go about it?
Yeah, so let's say I have just a ton of effectors in my thing, right? Like, and you're doing a bunch of stuff to cube or sphere, let's say, and you've got, all sorts of stuff in here, and basically, that whatever you're affecting, you can just put a spline at the top of it. It doesn't affect your scene at all, unless you start scaling the spline down. But you don't want to do that. It doesn't matter.
Sure.
You can even just kill the spline.
Would that work for using a null too, or would the null not effectively work properly?
No, that's why I was like, because the problem, the null doesn't have a check mark, right? It doesn't.
That's true.
You can't
right.
disable a null.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
so
that's
that was
cool.
a good little.
So as long as you don't mess with the spline, you're good.
Yeah, and you shouldn't need to. You can, you don't need to turn it off.
Huh?
Yeah, you can lock it, or you can just turn it right to 0, and you don't even see it in the scene. So
that's awesome.
There's a guy. His name is Matt Frodson. I don't know how to say his last name very well, but he's got an awesome website with just like the most like coolest like.
Matt Frodson. Let me go find that.
Frodson. Let me pull it. I think I can pull it up here.
Yeah, Matt.
It's Frodson. Like this. Yeah.
Okay, Matt Frodson. Okay, cool. I'll post this in this side for you guys.
Yeah, like he's got some great stuff.
Oh yeah. I
talk about like
he's the guy. I followed his blog when he was going off and doing a bunch of stuff when he was building his Octane machine. Yeah.
Yeah. This thing though, like this blog post.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I've gone through it. It's really good, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, like it talks about everything that you can do to like make your scenes more efficient. Like he should get a shout out. He does amazing work too.
Yeah, yeah, big thanks to him. I mean, he's doing this on his own time, and he doesn't have to share all this process with us. So that's really cool. Very cool. Yeah. That's awesome.
So yeah, there's a couple things, but with takes, have you used the take system yet?
No, I haven't played with that yet.
Oh, you'll love it. You'll love it. Because
this is a new feature in like R17 or something, or what? R18?
Yeah, I think R17 it came around. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the whole deal with the takes?
So let's say like the way that I used it is I knew that like you have your main scene set up here, and then you like come up with a new take, and then what that new take does is you can click this override auto take system. So what that means is like anything below this. So if you have you got your scene set up the way you want it to, and let's say you want to change one thing. Like let's say I want shot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to all be these different cameras. All I did, and this goes for any parameter, but I just put like, okay, shot 1 is my medium camera. Shot 2 is this camera. My zoom camera.
Okay.
And then shot 3, and so not only can like just for cameras, like my edge camera or whatever, right? Like I position these cameras and then I just made a take. But then once you have this auto take feature, you can do this within the parameters of things. So let's say, let me find something here that I can change up here. So the strands, let's say just in this take, I don't want these little. Can you see that in the stream? There's like these little spheres turning off and on.
Yeah, I see them.
In my main take, I can have those on. And I can go back to that same camera. Let's see that top edge. So my main take, that's just like your main scene.
Mm-hmm.
So they're on, right? But let's say I want to try another shot with them off. So I'm in that edge. Same same camera setup, right? Like between the main and the edge. But let's just say in this take, I just want to turn those off. I'm like, oh, okay, I don't want them in this shot.
Yeah.
So my main take brings them back, but this take, whoops, sorry, the
Oh, it like
yeah,
itemizes things then. That's cool.
yeah. So you can change parameters for everything. So everything that shows up in blue, you can
Mm.
adjust the take to. So all I did is I set up cameras basically in this scene. So then the best thing about it is when you have this little button, I could highlight all these takes, right? And it's all different cameras. And then I'm like, hey, I like all my scenes. They all look good in my live viewer. And then I would just click this. And really all this says is it renders all the mark takes to the picture viewer. So it'll render all of those takes in
Oh, that's
Jigsaw.
cool.
So
So like almost like a
yes,
render queue then, huh?
yeah, yeah. So you don't have to you can just walk away with it
That's
or walk away
awesome.
from it. Yeah.
That's really
So that
cool.
was, yeah, that's a big time saver.
Yeah, because you're kind of like maybe it's like almost like it's efficiently working. You could actually potentially, if you work methodically enough, you could probably just be able to like make
Do
your
it all with
entire
one
sequence all in
camera.
one time. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
Which is
yeah,
really quite interesting. Yeah, that's cool. Did you use that when you did
yeah.
the Camp Fest titles?
No, that was all like that was all broken out scenes all
Mm. Which
separately.
is a pain in the
Yeah,
ass. Yeah.
yeah, it is. Takes can run away from you though a bit, right? If you don't keep track of them, and all of a sudden
That's
you
true.
change the parameter, and you're like, where is that? Like, what happened there? So,
Yeah.
in some cases, I think it works really, really well, but in some cases, you just kind of want to like stay sane and like just be like locked down on a shot and bring in the scene and know that there's nothing else messing with it. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's really cool because not only can you do that, but you can sync it to render settings.
Oh, okay.
So I can say like this camera, let's render an animation out, or let's render it at this, and then this other camera, let's render it out this. So
That's
it's
cool.
all, yeah, it's all linked up to these, so you can change it how you want.
This is super efficient. Yeah, I'll have to bug you when I get into doing my next film or something, just to make sure I have all my production stuff up to speed. It's
Yeah.
so difficult because there's always something to learn, right? It's like right now I'm going through the massive cliff of learning ZBrush, like the massive mountain.
I,
Eventually getting to there, but like while I'm doing that, then Cinema 4D is coming out with these other things. I'm like, ah, crap, So it's such a journey. So that's really cool though. I like that. What else you got? You got some other little cool little things that you've been building out, or like little because I love time savers throughout the day. I try to use them as much as possible. Like they usually work for the
this is
system.
yeah. I'll try and think of all of them here as we go, but this one was a got me for a while. I was like, why are my lights not looking correct? Like, why are my lights?
Yes, I hate that.
You know what I mean? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like
Yes,
when you make a
a
go
change
ahead.
and they don't update.
No, I'm talking about like why they just don't. Um, so here, like when I'm making a light and I go, okay, new black body emission, and then whatever, like, and I want to make it blue, right? So I'm making my light blue, but I'm like, why is it so bright? Like, why? Like, and I would always tweak with this stuff, and I'd never get the right result. And it's because of this. It's because this is on, and this fucks with everything. So excuse my
Hmm.
French, but like man, it messes with everything. So you turn the diffuse off, and then you're able to like not have that white color influence the power of your mission. So it's so now it looks right,
You have to unclick
right? But
normalize too, huh?
yes, yeah. So see, well,
Ah,
you
there we
can.
go.
I honestly, yeah. See, like the difference, right? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay. It was the diffuse was activated. All right. Yeah. What a pain
Yeah.
in the butt.
So if anyone's having issues with that, like that's something that'll just like,
I had issues when
you
like
know,
the thing wouldn't load. Like I would make a change and then it wouldn't update inside that little thumbnail, and then I would just get
right?
completely lost in it. Like, what the hell is going on here? And then it wouldn't
Did
work.
you figure it out?
No, I still haven't figured it out, and I'm also like having a problem where like if I think this is probably like a common Cinema 4 thing, but if I
Yeah.
have like one file that I like a texture in, and then I start a new file and I copy and paste that texture in,
Hmm.
the bump and all that stuff, all those links that are in the node base editor, they're not live anymore. I have to basically go and recreate the freaking material. It drives me nuts because it doesn't
Hmm.
work unless I go through and rebuild it. And sometimes I'll be making materials and stuff that are huge, and I don't want to go through this again and rebuild
And
the
it's
whole entire thing, so.
a material that started from like the library that they have?
No,
Like,
I would make it
okay.
all myself, yeah.
And you've obviously set your file preferences and stuff like that, right? To pull
Maybe.
from that, right?
Oh, to like pull like my assets from that area, so that those
Yeah.
can. Yeah, I don't know. Actually, on these ones, I'm on my PC. It's like the Wild Wild West over here. I just kind of like slaying it, freaking throwing bullets everywhere. So it could
Yeah.
most likely it's just me being the dummy and not doing it right. That's probably the problem. But it's just trying to figure out. It's like one of those things that's like 3 levels deep that I'm not aware of, and it's just like I'm just gonna keep making.
Got them.
Yeah, I'm just gonna keep going, So, but I didn't know if there was like if you knew why that was working or that was happening. I imagine
If
Michael
you're gonna
probably
make
knows. So,
Yeah, I don't know. If you're gonna make a texture and you're not sure, like say you brought in like, images from a backup drive, this computer, and you've just got linked images from everywhere that aren't part of the source project, I would just say like, if you just have the texture in the scene, like the way that you want it,
yeah,
you just, what was it called? Just save the project with assets, and then it'll pull in any textures that you use from anywhere, as long as they're working in that file, and they'll pull them in and package them up in a folder and save that project out in its own folder. So you can say like, oh, this is my red cool texture, but it's a scene file with like, let's say a sphere with that on it, but all of those textures are local within that project.
okay, gotcha. All right.
Your material updates, check this thing, make sure it's on.
Okay.
Right here.
No, right.
That's material previews.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you have a ton of texture in this, you turn that off so you don't like have
to load every time.
Yeah, like it'll go through each one that there's an image texture been a change, and it'll say, "Oh, update every single preview," and you're like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, that takes a long time.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
do you want to we could go ahead? Sorry.
No, that's it.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say maybe like we can maybe you can dissect like just how you would go about like let's say even like with the Camp Fest stuff that you're making that the title sequences that you did for that. Like maybe we could go through like just generating a sphere and creating a quick texture from scratch. I know it's hard to do this kind of stuff on the fly, but maybe like a go-to process would be kind of cool so people could see it. I guess would be rad.
Yeah, the Camp Fest textures are pretty. I know the spheres are pretty intense because it just took me a while to figure out like why things weren't working.
Yeah.
But with the Camp Fest, a lot of people will just create a sphere. And then they'll do like if they want like a shell, they'll do like a cloth, right? And what's different about the camp textures is that just doing much stuff.
Is there a reason why you switch the topography like that too, just so it becomes more seamless, or what?
I don't think there's a real reason. It's habit, but I also I know that if I want to go down something lower and then I throw in a sub D, I just get quads here, but I don't think it really matters if you're for your texturing. I just like the way that it looks, but I find that the results are just more consistent, I guess, because I've been doing it for so long.
Sure.
Yeah. But anyways, for what happens is when you create a cloth surface and you create thickness on the cloth surface, and I will just go to lines here.
Oh yeah, I can
see
that.
You've got two. Here, let me do this too.
It's almost like it shelled at the image, or shelled the geometry.
Yeah, totally. So it's not giving me what I want, but that's okay. It's showing that there's a thickness there, but the issue is when you put in a material like a specular material.
How do you go to that hot menu? That what's the hotkey for that again? To that
Shift
thing?
C.
Shift C. That's
C.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just put some light in here.
Do you use HDRIs much at all?
I used to use them a lot. I just haven't used them because they are a bit of a pain in the butt. But I know that Nick GSG's got that thing. I know people speaks really highly of it too.
He's got a new plugin or something.
Well, it's just like a link, and it allows you, I guess, to speed through viewing all your HDRIs kind of real time.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think he was talking about that. That's awesome.
Okay. So we've got some thickness. We've got, you know, this on here. I'll put a little plane. Okay. So this looks like camp, right? We're done.
All done, dude. Yeah, one thing we'll talk about too is the flickering and shit that you encounter when you're moving this stuff around, which I encountered a lot in Epoch and None too. We'll get into that later too, because I think I remember you talking about
the fireflies and stuff.
Yeah, just like the flickering that happens when it's trying to render specular stuff, frame to frame.
Yep.
There's a weird stuff that's happening, but we'll get into that later though. But yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna just put my path tracing on. Just adjust some stuff here.
Yeah, I do path tracing about 2000. That's about the same settings I use too. A8. Yeah. I mean, we can afford it because we have a lot of GPUs. So yeah.
Totally. Do you turn this down?
The GI clamp? Yeah, it depends.
Yeah.
I usually set it depending on. I'll look at it and I'll see when you're using transparents. I usually like to see how it affects it and then how far I can get away with it. So I just kind of scale it based on how much information I want the machine to use. So.
Yeah. Right. So I'm just gonna do this just for time. I'm gonna pull up the camp textures because I know people want to probably see that.
Yeah. Thanks, dude. Appreciate it. So.
Generous. Just linking up to my NAS here. So.
NAS it up. Yeah, I need to update my thing too. Get mine. I think my backup. I haven't done it for a while. I should probably do it soon. All right, I think it's doing it, but it like creates a weird bug in my machine. Like when it runs, it creates like a weird lag because it's constantly pulling data, and then my computer's acts up a lot. And I get like a lot of weird freezes and stuff in the programs that I use.
Yeah, so camp got a little crazy, but it worked. Let's pull up this file because this has both of them in it. So save me some time from building that out. I can just explain it.
Sure.
All right, so that's what we want it to look like. Now, this scene's pretty simple, but the thing about the texture is, so to get this, you might be familiar with this, but like the planet kind of HDRIs,
yeah,
right?
Great.
So you can get like a seamless. So why don't we just open up the node editor? It's nothing too crazy, The thing that made this pretty realistic is that I just I use the same texture for both inside and out, and it just goes to show you don't need to have something too complex. This was more the understanding of why it wasn't working, why it wasn't looking right.
Sure.
And the reason being is because the cloth material will. So if everyone wants to know, this is what's on the outside. This is
the clouds.
The map that I use for the outside. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's just HDR that gives you kind of like a seamless up and down. Poles at the top, so you don't have pinching going on.
Yeah.
So that's that. But the thing about the cloth, and what you'll notice with these two orbs, is that I set up. Which one's which here? This guy. So there's an outer and an inner. Like I have an inner sphere here.
Yeah.
But I have an outer texture. So if I hide this, I have my inner side of that cloth with the normals are reversed. So what happens is if you don't do this, and let's just say I just take this glass material, this might break. This might be the same thing that this might be the same thing that happens to you. Hopefully they'll all come in. Yeah, they're in. So if I just throw this on my regular sphere in here, maybe my bumps and stuff didn't come in.
Yeah, that's what happens. Then the links don't work. Oh, there it is.
We're good. We're kind of good. Yeah. But see, now look, the problem is here. See how everything is doubling up?
Yeah, you're getting like a mirror. You're not. Yeah, okay, I see.
See, and that's the problem, right? Is that's not how glass works. Is like if you have glass has thickness to it. It's like a car windshield, right? Your outside your windshield's dirty, your inside your windshield's clean, but your windshield still looks dirty. But it definitely you don't get dirt on both sides.
Yeah.
Right.
Good
So I was like,
point.
oh, okay. So I just took took both things and separated them and textured them individually. So my inside is a really clear glass. So if I was just to delete these polygons, these outside selection, and maybe re-render, I have a solid clear inside, but I still have that reflection. The refraction works like the way that it should.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then with the textures, for people asking, I think these ones were all these ones were all multiple or set up at the same size for both roughness and bumps. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll just like use a different texture projection and like um, change one to be a little bit bigger. You know,
Yeah,
like
that's
maybe make the
cool.
bump like a little bit bigger than
I,
the
if you
roughness.
a good tip for that too when you're using projection, if you just click that box lock aspect ratio, you don't have to do it all 3 channels unless you're trying
Oh
to
yeah,
warp
yeah.
it. But yeah, I don't know. That's something that I find myself using projection way more than transform because transform drives me nuts. But projection usually often works the best, gives me the best setup. So
Mhm. So yeah, that's case in point for um, the camp spheres.
yeah,
It was more the detail they're trying how to figure out because you can see now, right? Like I have that nice kind of fraction without the doubling up of the cloud texture.
yeah,
It's just a single outer effect, so it actually feels and looks correct. So yeah,
yeah. It's really
that was
cool.
that.
Yeah,
Um,
taking that journey and finding that is that's the process, and I think also just not giving up on trying to achieve that reality is really important. I think because it's easy to get so lost in just like, oh, it looks cool or like looks good enough, but then
yeah.
before you know it, you're just like, oh, you're making sacrifices along the way. So how long did it take you to kind of figure out that methodology? Did you have to kind of reconstruct the idea of how like thickness of glass works and the refraction quality of things and all that kind of stuff?
I,
And
I don't think I got like too much into the math of it. It was more the problem solving of like just why doesn't this look right? You know,
yeah,
why is it not looking the way that it should look?
yeah.
And yeah, it was fun. It's just a fun thing to figure out, I guess. Yeah,
Awesome. Yeah, we're gonna run through some questions if that's okay, and then because
yeah, sure.
we're gonna probably shift off in about 5 or 6 minutes. I'm gonna maybe 10 minutes max. Gonna shift over to Olaf, and we're gonna do a critique of his latest work. But so I'm gonna run through these questions, and then we just get as much as we can done. Thank you guys for asking them. First one up is, what's Joey's process and routine for everydays?
Hmm. Depends what my day looks like. I think it just depends if I have like an idea, if I have a full day. But there's kind of there's two facets. There's really like on one side I'll start from scratch. I'll like just like be like, okay, I want to figure this thing out. I've been doing those making it look great tutorials,
Oh,
like
those
the
are great.
modeling
Yeah,
tutorials.
those are great.
Yeah, they're
Super
super
thorough.
helpful, but yeah, and I get those are the ones I get a lot out of, right? Like I get super stoked. So those are kind of like these ones and some of this stuff here, like just
Have you tried Fusion
understand.
360 yet?
No,
Oh,
I guess I get.
you have
Yeah,
to.
like it looks super cool. I just like I have like I'm hung up on this whole like, well, it's not quads, and I don't know
Oh
why
yeah.
I'm like
No, don't worry about that. Don't let that get you in the way. You
that.
actually can do some mesh remaking and stuff, which it would work well for you. But yeah,
Yeah.
don't yeah. Trust me, the Boolean
Oh,
operations and stuff in Fusion, and just the process of making hard surface, it's like nothing beats it.
beautiful.
Yeah. You look at
Uh,
like Vitali, or he's using moments of inspiration, but it's a very similar process. If you
yeah,
want to learn
I've
modeling,
got more
so.
to do.
It's been hard for me to learn polygonal modeling because I'm watching the same tutorial you are for Make It Look Great, and it's been really hard for me
Uh,
because I'm like, oh shit, I could just do that faster in Fusion, man. Like, why would I want to do that there? But it's good to have that discipline because poly modeling is such a bee, man. It's a giant bee. So yeah,
Yeah, I think there's cases for both. I wish that Fusion might be something that I jump into. I don't know if you saw on my here, but I've got like I'm waiting for, you see at the bottom of my account, I'm just like, okay, like I'm waiting to start this. So I don't know. I
Here we
don't
go.
know. And you keep talking about the black hole. I'm like,
Open
I'm
your
just gonna
bum, dude. Here it
wait till
comes.
this month is over. I've taken a couple of shots at ZBrush, and I struggle with the UI quite a bit.
Yeah, the
Just like,
UI. You have to go in there. Like Adam Swab said it perfectly about his process with learning Houdini. Is like you can't go in there with expectations that it's anything like you've ever used before. You have to basically rid yourself of every habit you've made in other programs and be okay with that fact and learn a whole new language. It's basically like learning a new language that you're manipulating and building a new language within. That's kind of how I look at it. And you have to
so
have that
basically, it's
outputs.
like a rival.
It's like a rival, exactly. But the more you do it, the more you can warp time and you can manipulate things, which I think is really great. So, no, I mean, yeah, I'm on the quest to be amazing at ZBrush. I don't want it to hold me back anymore. So, yeah, that's cool, man. Alex's class. I mean, you got Michael Wrigley's class and Alex's class. I mean, those are two incredible classes. If you take those classes and you really are a good student, like you would have no problem with just accelerating, extreme acceleration. So. Yeah, I'm excited to see what you make with that because that's going to be interesting. Bringing all that into what you know and how you take photographs, CGI, and Octane, I think it'd be really interesting. So,
yeah. So I think what they were asking is like what my
Everyday
course of
process.
dailies is. Yeah. So when you've got a class, like when you've got like a consistent thing you're working towards, like design for production made it easy. That's what these were all about, even though they're varied, right? I'm like trying new things and it helps you down a path of getting to a certain point. Some other days I'm just like crazy busy, and I'm like, okay, well let's put a sphere, and I've got no problems with spheres. I don't know why. I think some people have problems with spheres, but I fucking love spheres because honestly, if you can do it with a sphere and you can make a sphere look good, then you're on the right track, I think.
Sure. Yeah. No. Definitely. That looks really cool.
So,
that's really nice.
Yeah, and I took that
same. Is that a bump? That's not a bump though. That looks like.
It's a little bit of displacement, I think.
Yeah, displacement is the best. I mean, if you have the time and the RAM to do it.
Resource.
Yeah, because you get so much more information. We used it a lot when we were making shaders for the planets and Epoch and all that stuff too. It just gets you that next level because bump kind of has false shadowing and stuff, which is weird. So, but the displacement actually creates like geometry in a sense, which is really cool. Yeah, that looks really cool. I want to throw that. See if you make a really cool ZBrush sculpt. You just grab that and you throw it on there, and you're like, oh, cool, there it is, done. So. Yeah,
totally. So yeah, I took one of the the substance textures and just like manipulate. So I'm like, oh, how much can that be manipulated within cinema, right? And throwing like a paint down on one, and using a mask on the other. But sometimes I'm busy and I want to, I like having balance, but I also want to make sure I'm learning something, and like I said, like I might not learn a lot, but like I might not learn a lot with this, but oops, sorry.
You're learning a lot though as you're growing. Yeah, and if you guys want to buy any of these things, you have a link to it too. That's fine. Yeah, so
sure.
Yeah, I mean, if there's something that you want to put on your walls, there you go.
The thing about that one though, like it doesn't look like much, right? And I think sometimes you can be quick to judge, people like what they're putting out there because they're just learning. But for me, like this, I was learning cycles. I wasn't even using Octane for this. I was just trying out cycles because I wanted to learn it, And there was a lot of stuff learned from this. And does the end result look like it? Maybe not, but it doesn't take away, I think, from anyone that's out there that's maybe thinking their stuff doesn't look good. Doesn't matter. Just
keep
learn.
going.
As long as you're walking away learning from something, something that you've intended to learn, I think is really helpful too.
Yeah.
Or that you've solved.
That feels good. Yeah. And you have those growth spurts and those accelerated moments are amazing. Awesome.
Yeah.
So, we're running out of time. I'll do one last question. Sorry for anybody who missed anything else, but I think there's only a couple that we're missing here. But yeah, so last question for you is, Joey, do you have any longer term career goals, or are you just feeling it out as you go along and just keeping it loose and fun for now? ?
Yeah, it's always that question. Isn't it always that question?
Yeah, it is.
Where are we going?
Yeah, where are we going? Yeah, which is a good one. That's why I talked about like looking up to the stars and reminding yourself of the navigation where you're going. So like, what's
Yeah.
your dream? What is all this work accumulated for? I kind of know what it is 'cause I know you outside of this, but what is it that
I
you're
think
striving
it's
for?
I think it's like beyond eye candy for sure. For me, it's just creating meaningful work and meaningful work for me, and meaningful work that hopefully lands, and if it lands on other people's eyes or hearts, let's say the same way, then it's a win. But if it hasn't, at least it's meaningful work. And I think, you know, being able to create something, that's yours, that for me, that's what it is. It's just stopping to create more meaningful work and less, less, I guess, pencil pushing, and then being a pizza delivery guy for things that aren't yours. I think if people, ever want to work with me or you want to do work, it's like you've got good taste. So, I think I have good taste, and I would like to continue delivering, good things. I think when we get people putting in their orders with us, and you're going, sure, yeah, I'll do that, yeah, I'll do that. You're kind of bits of your soul get left behind.
Yeah.
So for me, it's holding steady that direction. In terms of technical stuff, like I definitely want to, plan to do more motion. Like a big thing for me is like just getting these things moving. Because that's where the heart and soul of it is. For me, is being able to see beautiful things in a way that tell a story beyond just like a still image.
Sure, that's awesome. Yeah, it's important to have that navigation. That's good, and that's a good outlook. I think it's a healthy outlook and your approach to it. So sick, man. Well, dude, thank you
Yeah.
for all this. I'm gonna jump into chatting with Olaf. Please stay, of course, as we go through it, and then we'll just close it out after I'm done with the critique, and then any last questions you guys might have, let us know. But yeah, this is. It's been really cool. It's cool to see the process in which you're like kind of putting things forth and just seeing kind of your development as you go. We're all developing and growing as we go, so which is great. It's just kind of it's just a journey. So
Yeah, it's an endurance run for sure.
yeah, and it's not. I think the thing is, it's not a sprint. It's definitely it takes its time, and it's like if you're really doing it, it's going to take it's going to take a decent amount of time if you're really going for it, and it's like no shortcuts really. That's the thing I've been having a hard time with, is just realizing like there's no shortcuts. It's just constant like battling, so yeah, a never ending mountain. Awesome. Okay, Olaf, are you here? Olaf? Yo, what's up? Say hello to the peoples.
Hi, peoples.
You enjoying the stream today?
Oh man, it's awesome. Learning some secrets from Joey.
You guys, just so people can understand, you guys did the Camp Fest titles together, right? Isn't that right?
I basically watched Joey do
it. Nice.
I helped where I could, but it's Joey's baby, and just helping keep him, on path. But it's his brainchild.
Awesome.
Olaf was like my like psychologist, psychiatrist, like
second wife.
Like yeah, like it's gonna be okay. We'll get there. And I was like, no, it went great. We had a good time, and I think Olaf was pinnacle in honestly just keeping things on track. Because when you have free reign to do anything, it's hard to do something, And we got there in the end. I think you always do.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. I personally love working. Like I could do personal projects all the time, but I love the camaraderie you get. Like when Chris and I make something together, it's just so much fun. Or when I make something with Anthony, like there's such a process to it, and it really elevates. I think alone we're pretty good, but I think united with the right people, we're unstoppable. And I think that's what makes our species so unique. It's like being able to connect and use those that our communication and our ability to kind of like convey things that are much more abstract, like inspiration or whatever it might be. Those are really important things that really elevate to make better work. So awesome. All right. So Olaf, he's a friend of mine, and also he's a student, and he took my class and he made the hex object. He took my UI and data design class. Mohammed was kind enough to kind of join us together. We're going to be trying to do these more often because I think it's important for people to see kind of inside a little bit of a window of how and why the school works the way it does, and just like the benefit of having the connectivity to your instructors and being able to have that like closeness and being able to get honest and proper critique. Maciej's going to be doing them too. So big thanks to Mohammed for setting this up, and Olaf for being here. Thank you for being here the whole time, actually. So that's awesome. Glad you're enjoying the stream. So let's get into it. You started developing the hex object, and the cool thing is you've taken the class and the concepts of the class, and you've gone beyond what I taught, which is you're using Octane, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, man. And it's funny, like going through the course, and you're talking about using like the physical render and the standard render, and like, oh man, I'm getting my Octane build, and you know, there's no ways I would do some of this stuff if I had to render each element out. And here I am blitzing through Octane, and I'm like, yeah, but that changes once you have Octane.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, when I made my class, I didn't have Octane, and I wasn't using it. And I wanted to also just appeal to people that might not necessarily want to spend like $6 to $10,000 on like a rig, you know. So like, you can still generate amazing imagery. I still can generate something at this level with the standard render. It's just the time that it takes to get there.
It's just a tool.
It is just a tool, exactly, and the end user is the most important thing. I think is really significant. So, how was your process working on building the hex object, and what did you like? What are some key takeaways that you might have had from the class that you might have missed if you hadn't taken it?
If I hadn't taken it, I think building assets in Illustrator was huge, because I've always opened Illustrator, and I grew up in Photoshop and photography, but Illustrator just, I'd go in and eventually just get frustrated and leave and never touch it again. But watching you through your process of like really creating the assets and almost starting so focused in, it looks like a blunt object, like squares, spheres, circles, triangles, whatever, but then you layer it and you layer it and you layer it and you build out and you build out and you build out, and all of a sudden you've got this intensely detailed, complex thing that doesn't look like you could have created it, but by just taking it one step at a time was the big part, because you realize it's actually a lot easier to get there. And if you just take the time to lay down the foundation first and not just try and create in it, but like creating the sketches and coming up with just small elemental ideas was huge.
Awesome. Yeah, I call it emerging complexity. It's like, and I always say, like, you know, complex things are many simple things combined, you know, which is great. And that's the thing I love about Illustrator is it's kind of like, it's very in tune actually with Fusion 360, and it's also very in tune with like moments of inspiration, Moi, in the form that you're using vector-based kind of objects, and you're creating something that at the beginning is quite simple. But then you can do like really interesting Boolean operations, kind of, if you look at it like that, and you can create patterns and strokes and different things you can generate. Like this thing that's looping around is obviously a custom brush that you made, you know, and like.
Dude, the pattern brush, when you break that down, and I'm like, holy shit balls.
Yeah.
So, like, I actually, you know what, I should have included it is in my Illustrator file. I organized my patterns off to the side to say, like, this was like my source patterns.
Oh, that's cool.
And then I would create a pattern, but then I would create variations of the pattern off to the side. So one that was outlines instead of solid shapes, and one that was squares instead of circles. And, you know, in the end, you only use a few of them, but I had tons that I got to just kind of cycle through.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And creating those options and stuff, and like you're basically making a bridge between Adobe Illustrator and then taking that into 3D, which is really awesome. And then you're able to proficiently work and make things quickly. And then you can go back and make a new asset, put it in there. Let's say like you're making this, you're like, oh, I wish it was more like hexagonal or something. Like it's easy it's so simple. All you would do is like make a hexagonal shape, throw that pattern on there, boom, save it, and then bring it in here, and you have some new geometry to work with, which might be kind of more or less complex to do and generate inside this program. So it allows you to make like really interesting custom bespoke features. And you can also did you ever see that one stream I did where like I would take let's see, I'll go back to this, where I would take like all the UI stuff I'd make, and then I'd go into Photoshop and build like a really crazy high-res image, and then bring that in as a displacement map, and you can create like super gnarly, crazy geometry inside of Octane by using displacement maps and stuff.
No, I've tried that before, but I didn't get to see you do it. Oh man, that would be nuts.
I'll have to show you next time. Just hit me up, and next time you want to jump on the stream, and we'll go through it. It's really a lot of fun because you can use Adobe Illustrator to generate those like emerging complexities where you can just kind of create infinites basically, And you can bring that all in, and you can use it as displacement map, and then you can, like maybe Joey could show us too, but like there's a way to like create alphas basically where you can like, let's say you just want like the top of this to have like crazy displacement like weird information on it, which is like a texture that you would use, and you can use that, and there's all kinds of interesting things you could do with that, but it's really infinite.
Especially once you start playing with alphas make it so you can just create anything you want and then just have a plane or a sphere, and it's so you can quickly get to some really intense stuff.
Yeah, it's never ending. So your hex object and your take on it is really cool. It's quite different. Can you run me through kind of like your thought process, and is there anything that you hit in the creative process that was a snag that you think I could help you with and along the way? I know it's kind of you're already done baking the cookies and we're eating them now, but like when you're making them, you're like, damn, that was a hard part, or was it kind of smooth sailing for you?
No, it definitely wasn't smooth sailing. I stopped and started a bunch of times because my personal life with 2 kids, as well as like client projects and other personal projects, always got in the way until I finally treated it like, okay, this is something I have to get done before I can move on to anything else. And if I don't get it done, I have to keep plugging away at it. So it was quite rewarding in the end. But I think the hardest part was not oversaturating it and kind of knowing when you're done with something, because it's so easy to ideate different processes and things and ideas, but it's hard to stop. It's hard to say that's detailed enough, or that's the right element there, as opposed to just layering and layering. Like right now, it's basically one flat layer that's duplicated and flipped and mirrored, so it gives it some depth with the displacement. But I had like 4 or 5 before with different layers, and it just got to be a real big mess.
Yeah. Things quickly do that when you're making things like when you're making something super complex. It's easy to get lost in that, like where you're making something and then you go down a path and then you're like, oh crap, Should
I be sharing my screen right now? I'm not too sure.
No, it's okay. You don't have to. Yeah, I'm sharing it. And right now I'm just showing your Behance. Basically, we're going through it. Unless you want to, but we're almost out of time, so it's okay. I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah. No, I had the Skype window open, so all I see is our little icons. So,
yeah,
cool.
That's fine. No, it's totally fine. So yeah, I mean, it's mostly a matter of just kind of figuring out how you work too. Like, it's one thing to take the knowledge in which I'm providing for you when you take the class, and the next thing is applying it. And then the third step, I think, is just like making it work for you in your own way of process. Like I think that's really key, because it's like it's such a process. It really is. And then taking this and then evolving it, and then interjecting this into your own client work. Like anytime I learn something new, I'm constantly like, okay, I'm going to take this tool and I'm going to put it in my tool chest, and then I'm going to use it eventually down the road, as long as it makes sense to me, that I'm going to like, okay, this is really cool, or I'll seek out specific information. Is there something from here that you feel like is going to be interesting to add into your flow when you're making things? As I know you have a couple personal projects that you're developing and stuff. Do you think that you'd be able to use any of these kind of ideas or the process of making these things in the future?
I think tons. One thing I loved was having a creative brief to go to, or kind of like your compass to say, okay, these are the things I'm supposed to hit. Am I actually hitting them? And the one that I kept coming back to, which is why I deviated a little from just creating some sharp imagery, is like I wanted to create an object, something that people would interact with. And in the brief, it talks about this being an object that characters throughout the film would use.
Yeah.
So I would constantly go back to, okay, how would you use it? What would be like, there's layers of complexity. Is it alien? Is it human? Who uses it? What do they get out of it? How would you actually use this in real life if you had to make this? Or would it be all visual effects? And constantly going back and forth trying to find the balance between going in my own creative direction, but knowing that I have an imaginary boss that I would have to deliver this to and be able to back up, and not just kind of say, oh, I did it for some reason.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's really good, because when you go to your client, let's say you're building this out, and you go to your client and you show them and you try to sell them on your ideas, yeah, you better be ready to tell them about the mythology and the methodology and the concepts behind it, because they're going to ask for that, as you go through it. And I think that having that idea and really using that methodology of thought process is really going to help you down the road. I think half of the success that I've had in my own career comes down to me being able to clearly and concisely convey my ideas to a director or a producer or whoever it might be, and that usually helps tremendously because I'm able to say like, oh, this is how the X object works. It goes like this and this, and then when you ignite it or when you start it up, we could do some really cool shots. And let's say I'm talking to the director and the DOP, I'd say we could do some really cool things where when you activate the hex object, you can go in there and you can see, it activating electricity kind of coming out and reaching out to the edges, and then it illuminates the light of the character or whatever it might be. All those kind of things really help in the whole concept of actually making something, because you can make some really cool, beautiful images, but it's really cool to be able to convey this stuff. And yeah, it's cool to see you kind of go through that process and stuff. So yeah.
I think often it's easy to work the wrong way. Like you start with creative, cool looking images, but you don't start at the base, which is why.
Yeah.
And then, whether you're making a short film or a commercial or whatever it is, if you don't start at the right place, you end up in the wrong one. And for the longest time, coming from a photography background, I just wanted to make something that looked good.
Yeah.
And then you realize that's the last thing you should worry about. You should worry about all the other stuff and then get to the point where it's like, and now how do we make it look good?
Yeah, that's really tough to do. I think it's really tough because all you want to do is go in there and make something great. And of course you do, we all do, so, but it is tough to have that restraint and to do that. But I think overall your concept is great. And I think that the way you've executed everything and how you went above and beyond the class to expose your ideas and like kind of convey some different things, you came up with something that I don't think I've seen from the students yet, which is really good. So that's another really great successful thing. So I think you nailed it. I think this is great. And I would say, like, if we were building this out together and we're working with clients, I'd be like, this is good enough for us to kind of put in the pitch package for us to kind of go through and convey and try to win, like, Ridley Scott's heart or whatever it might be, whoever our client might be, So, and this would be a great thing to get a good starter of a conversation. And it could be like, we went from here. There's this really interesting thing when I was working on Assassin's Creed with Ryan. There's this really interesting thing that an object that exists inside the realm of the Assassin's Creed film lore or the game lore or whatever it is. It's called the Artifact. And there's this really interesting. It was interesting when I started doing the job. I was like, oh, this is kind of like the hex object, and I started going into it and we were building it out. But what I'm getting to is somebody had to design what that hex object looked like and how it worked and stuff. And this is kind of like, imagine you got the brief and it's like the brief is similar to how the hex object works, but you'd have to figure out a way of having it open and what does it look like and does it have abstract shapes and how do you make that and all these kind of things. It's all together. It's all part of it. And using applicable knowledge and applying this, I think, is really cool. So overall, again, I'm rambling on about all kinds of random stuff here today. I'm sorry, guys, but all in all, it's very successful and it's cool. And most importantly, I'm just proud of you for finishing this. I know how demanding, family and other things can be. So I'm proud of you for finishing it, and you should be proud of yourself because it's not easy to do these things, with everything else. So good job, man.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Title design is next on my list. So
awesome. Yes, we've talked about that too. So we'll have to get you aligned so we can set up our mentorships and all that stuff too. So all in time. Awesome. Okay, so that's it for the day, guys. If you guys need anything, let us know. Joey, if you guys could send me after we're done with this, if you guys can send me like whatever social feeds you guys want, so that we can make sure people are getting attached to being able to see how to get a hold of you or follow you on Twitter or Instagram, wherever you guys want people to. Let me know and I'll put it in the chat for everybody. But yeah, it's been awesome.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you both for being here. Thank you guys for joining in and being awesome and sharing your logic and knowledge and all that good stuff. It's been an awesome stream. Everybody really appreciate it. So give everybody in the chat, give love, and we'll see you guys on the next stream. The next stream coming up is Mache. He's going to be on tomorrow, and I'm not sure who he's going to have on as a guest, but we'll have it in the banner, so you guys will see. All right, peeps.
Peace.
Keep it classy.